We're all on this quest, right? Looking for that thing, that sense of purpose in our jobs, our hobbies, our everyday lives. But be honest, how often does it feel like you're just kind of going through the motions?
So let me just ask you something point blank. What's your reason for getting up in the morning? It sounds like such a simple question, doesn't it? But finding the answer, well, that can be surprisingly tough.
And hey, if you feel a little bit stuck sometimes, you are definitely not alone. So many of us are trying to find some real meaning in the middle of all the responsibilities, the chores, the endless to-do lists. But what if I told you there's a concept out there that could actually help us find it?
All right, let's dive right in. We're going to explore this really fascinating Japanese philosophy that gives us a totally new way to look at finding that purpose.
Okay, so this concept is called Ikigai. That's Ikigai. It's a Japanese word that basically means a reason for being. Or you could even say a reason to live. Think of it as the joy you get from being busy with something that actually matters to you.
Now, this is super important. Ikigai isn't about some big, far-off goal, like, someday I'll be happy when. No, it's all about finding that fulfillment, that balance right here in the everyday stuff. The idea is that our well-being is totally tied to this sense of purpose.
And look, this isn't just some abstract idea. Just take a look at Okinawa, Japan. It's one of the world's blue zones. Those places where people live incredibly long, healthy lives. And guess what? A strong sense of Ikigai is seen as one of the big secrets to why they live so long. But it's more than that. They don't just live longer, they seem to live better.
Okay, so that all sounds great, but how do we actually find our own Ikigai? Well, there's a really popular Western take on this that uses a simple but surprisingly powerful tool to map it all out.
You've probably seen this before. It's this four-circle Venn diagram, and it's become the go-to way to visualize the path to purpose. The whole thing is built around 4 key questions about yourself. And where those circles overlap, well, that's where the magic really happens.
So circle number 1, what do you love? This is all about your passions, your hobbies. The things you do where time just seems to disappear. It could be absolutely anything, writing, playing a sport, just hanging out with your family.
All right, next up, what are you good at? We're talking skills, talents, those unique strengths you have. Maybe it's something that just comes naturally to you, or maybe it's something you've worked really hard to get good at.
Now, the third circle, this is where we shift our focus outwards. The question is, what does the world need? This is all about your mission. It's about looking around at your community or even the whole world and figuring out what problems you're passionate about helping to solve.
And finally, the last circle brings it all back down to earth. What can you be paid for? This is the reality check, right? It's about finding a way to make a living so that this purpose of yours is actually sustainable.
Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. Where these circles overlap, we start to see some familiar ideas pop up. What you love plus what you're good at, that's your passion. What you're good at plus what you can get paid for, well, that's your profession. What you're paid for that the world needs, that's your vocation. And finally, what the world needs that you also love, that's your mission. But that sweet spot, that little piece right in the middle where all 4 of them come together, that is where this diagram places Ikigai.
But wait, here's a really important thing to know. That diagram, as helpful as it is, it's really a Western interpretation. The true traditional concept of Ikigai is actually a lot more subtle.
So, the Western view tends to see Ikigai as this one big thing, this grand purpose, usually tied to your career that you have to achieve. But the traditional Japanese idea, it's much quieter. It doesn't have to be one huge thing. It can be a collection of small, personal joys. It's less about reaching some destination and much more about how you live your life right now, in the present. For instance, in Japan, your Ikigai might be found in something really simple, like the peace you feel while tending your garden, or the focus you have when you're working on a craft. It could even be the simple pleasure of that first morning cup of coffee, or just spending quality time with people you care about.
Okay, so how do we take all this great theory and actually put it into practice? Let's walk through a couple of simple exercises you can do to start putting Ikigai to work in your own life. First things first, though. You gotta remember that finding your Ikigai isn't usually some big flashy aha moment. It's more of a quiet journey of self-reflection. It takes time, it takes being honest with yourself, but it's a path that absolutely anyone can start walking down. So here's a really simple but super powerful exercise. It's called elaborative interrogation. You just start with a basic statement, something like, I love working with numbers. Then you ask yourself, why? Okay, maybe the answer is because it makes me feel in control. Cool, now ask why again. You just keep repeating that process. By digging deeper and deeper, you can start to uncover what really motivates you.
All right, here's another really practical tool. Let's call it the work check-in. For just 1 week, keep a simple log of your daily tasks. Write down how much time you spend on each thing, but here's the key. Also jot down how each task makes you feel. This is going to give you a super clear picture of what drains you and what actually fulfills you. And with that knowledge, you can start to strategically job craft, basically trying to shape your work to include more of the stuff that you believe in.
And that brings us to one last really crucial point. Your Ikigai, it's not a static thing. It's a lifelong journey.
There's this quote that just says it all. Our reason for being is not the same at 15 as it is at 70. Our Ikigai is a constant that transforms. I mean, think about that. It means your purpose is supposed to change and evolve. And that's not just okay, it's totally normal. It's part of life.
So, let's just wrap up the big takeaways here. First, Ikigai is a journey, not a destination. Second, you don't just invent meaning out of nowhere. You find it in the things you do. And maybe the most powerful idea of all. In Japanese, there's no word for retirement. The whole concept is that your purpose, your reason to get up, just keeps going for your whole life.
So I'm going to leave you with this one last question. For just a minute, forget about the big, grand 5-year plan. Let's just think about today, right now. What's one small joy that will give your day purpose?